We're now going to talk about the pad control screens. There are several functions that can be put on any pad, and they are pad control screens: note shift, velocity shift, control paths, and slot shift. Let me explain what they do. Note shift is, well, what it says. It shifts notes. And what happens is, normally on a pad, you set up a note number. Let's say you put it on 65. And normally you would have the one note per pad. But now when you turn on note shift, as soon as you add a note, what happens is, as you play from soft to loud, the notes will go from 65 down to the number that you put here. So that means that theoretically you can get 65 different notes on the pad. And you can go either direction. You can go down, you can go up, basically based on the two parameters of the original note number that you set up and the note that you want to shift to. And you'll notice here that there are, to the right of the note shift, you can control when the note shift starts. So these are basically the dynamics of the effects dynamics of the instrument. So you can decide at what part, when you play from soft to loud, the dynamic, when you want the effect of the note shift to start taking place. So you can control that by setting the minimum and maximum range of when you want that to work. The next screen is velocity shift. And what velocity shift is that here you assign, when you assign a number, what you are really doing is assigning a controller number. And there are 127 controllers that are possible in MIDI. Some of the ones like pitch bend and volume and modulation wheel are all defined as controller numbers. So we have the non-standard one like pitch bend up and pitch bend down, and then we have the normal numbers. So if I assigned it, let's say I assigned it to 16, a velocity shift 16, that means that when you play on a pad, besides playing the note that's assigned to the pad here, it also will send out a controller number of 16, and this is the minimum and maximum, how much the range of that controller. Now 16 is a controller number that's used by Roland and others to control positional sensing. So that means that every time you strike a pad with this assignment, not only will you get the MIDI note number that's assigned, but you will also get a discrete value. And the reason why there's minimum and max on this is that you can really decide how much of the value that you want for that controller number. That's important when you start using these. Let's just say something like 16 that's controlling the position sensing. You can determine just how much you want it to change that sound, so you can control the minimum and the maximum effect of that. Now we also have control paths. Control paths is similar to the velocity shift in that it's sending out a controller number, but unlike it being controlled by velocity, instead it has a minimum range and a maximum range, but it has steps. So what happens is, if I say that I want 32 steps, it's going to send out a controller number of 16. It's going to divide 0 to 127 into 16 steps. And as you play each step, it's going to go forward and backwards. It's going to divide the 127 values into 16 discrete areas. And then each time you strike it, it plays that value. So that's also very cool, so that you can really control exactly how many steps you want the range to be. This is something that's really useful when you are using something like panning. When you want the sound just to dance a little bit from left to right, so you would assign here the panning, which I believe is either 7 to 10, I think it's 7. And then you just say that you want it to go, you just want it to dance somewhere between here and here. And let's say that you have this little range here, and you want to make it go within 4 steps or 8 steps. So now every time you strike that pad, it's going to go from 40 to 74 and divide up the difference between 40 and 74 by 8, and every time you strike it, you will get that value. Really cool feature. Finally, we have a slot shift. A slot shift, what it does is that as you play louder, it jumps from slot 1 to whatever slot, from 1 to 32. You can tell it exactly how much of a slot shift you want. Let's say you only wanted to have 8 different notes shifting. So you would assign notes from slot 1 to slot 8, and on slot number 9 you would set it to off. So now the DITI knows that you want a slot shift from 1 to 8. But this is where it gets interesting. Because you have this minimum and maximum effects dynamic, you can decide when you want the effect to start kicking in. So for example, you can just have slot 1 play almost till you're playing to the top of your volume, and then you can kick in the slot shift effect of going from those 8 different slots by controlling the minimum and maximum here. So the way to really do this is that you need to keep on playing with these values and hit the pad, and then you hear the effect that it's creating, and that's the best way to use these modes. So these are really powerful pad control functions that are within the DITI.